discovered the heartwarming journey of a lonely billionaire to unexpected, life-changing love. Jack Anderson stood alone in his high-rise office, the beauty of Chicago's skyline sprawling before him like a glittering ocean. At 45, he was a billionaire, yet today, he felt trapped within his own gilded cage. Once a bright-eyed hustler chasing dreams, he traded family dinners for boardroom meetings, left friends behind in his relentless climb, and now all he had was the echo of his own footsteps across the marble floor. Below, the city buzzed with life, kids playing, laughter spilling from cafes, and the rhythmic beat of a community pulsing through the streets. Jack's heart ached against the loneliness, a sharp reminder of the love and connections he sacrificed on his way to success. When the invitation to the annual charity gala flickered across his phone, Jack hesitated. Usually, he would ignore the call of obligation, but something urged him not to. This year's gala aimed to revitalize struggling neighborhoods, and a small part of him wondered if he could find redemption. He stepped into the event, a sea of expensive suits and the clinking of glasses around him, yet he felt like a ghost drifting through a crowd that didn't see him. That's when he met Maya. Her passion ignited the room as she spoke to a small group, hands animated, eyes sparkling with life as she recounted stories of the families she fought to help. Jack was drawn in like a moth to a flame. They exchanged words, each charge infused with intensity. Her fire mirrored his emptiness. When she turned to him, her voice soft yet powerful, she said, "Sometimes, success can blind us to the struggles just around the corner." A sharp breath caught in his throat. Suddenly, he wasn't just the billionaire, he was a man yearning for connection. Days later, disaster struck. An unexpected tornado ripped through vulnerable neighborhoods, breathing chaos and despair. Fueled by a newfound urgency, Jack felt compelled to act. With Maya by his side, he stepped into the storm's aftermath. Surrounded by wreckage, their mission unfolded: food drives, shelters, and a fight for hope amidst devastation. Jack found himself kneeling beside a single mother, offering a hug to a child scared and shaking. Tears blurred his vision as he began to understand the gravity of their suffering and the true power of community. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as hope began to bloom, a scandal erupted. A tabloid unveiled Jack's past business practices, reigniting whispers of privilege, drowning out his good intentions. He was cornered, framed as the face of economic disparity. Standing on the stage of a community rally, the weight of judgment loomed heavy. The crowd's eyes studied him, questions hung in the air, empathy mixed with disdain. But there was Maya, unwavering, her gaze steady, and belief shining like a beacon. As Jack prepared to speak, his heart pounded. Could he truly win the community over? This moment, hanging by a thread, taught him he was at a crossroads, and the choice to rise or fall felt like the most crucial decision of his life. Would he embrace this chance or let his past define him? Jack took a deep breath, the weight pressing down on him like a lead blanket. The murmurs of the crowd buzzed in his ears, a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and perhaps a hint of pity. He gripped the edge of the podium, his knuckles turning white as he gathered his thoughts. Would they listen? Or had his past consumed him whole, leaving no room for redemption? Maya stepped closer, her presence grounding. She offered him a soft but encouraging smile, her unwavering faith in him shining through. For a brief moment, Jack found strength in that gaze. He closed his eyes, conjuring the faces of the families they had helped, the hugs he had given that day. Their trust and hope became his allies. His voice broke the silence. "I know the headlines can tell a story, but let me share the truth." The crowd shifted, some leaning in, some crossing their arms. He took a step forward, urgency filling his heart. "I have made mistakes. But standing here today, I see a community that deserves more. You deserve more. I want to be a part of your hope, your resilience." The initial skepticism flickered, dimming under the glow of his sincerity. A few heads nodded, the glimmer of understanding reaching their eyes. Jack continued, heart racing. "Let us build something new together. Let us ensure that we lift one another up. My past was about isolation, about profits. But with Maya, I've seen the power of connections, not just monetary but human. The room filled with a growing murmur, a soft ripple of hope moving through the crowd. He felt the tremors of their hearts resonate with his words, and for the first time, he was speaking not just to billionaires or boardrooms, but to the very families that breathe life into the city. Together, we can turn disgraced neighborhoods into vibrant communities. Together, we can fight despair with hope. As he spoke, he noticed a woman in the front row, holding a child close to her chest. Her eyes glistened with tears, and Jack's heart swelled. He stepped down from the stage, moving toward her. "I see you," he said, kneeling. "I know it's hard. I want to help." Suddenly, the crowd began applauding, a wave of solidarity that swept through the air. He could feel their walls crumbling. But just as the applause began to crescendo, a voice cut through the air. "What makes you believe we can trust you?" It was a younger man, standing tall, anger etched on his face. Jack turned, ready to confront the challenge. "That's a fair question. Trust is earned, and I am here to earn yours. I won't lie, it's not going to be easy. But every person here deserves to see action, not just words." The challenge hung between them, pregnant with tension. But in the depths of Jack's heart, he sensed a shift. This was his moment, the turning point where he could transform from the lonely billionaire to a man devoted to the community. The sound of applause hadn't stopped, it swelled and fell like a tide, each clapping hand echoing a hope he never expected to claim. Just as he opened his mouth to say more, a shout from the back rang out, silencing them. "What about your donations? Are they even going to come through?" That single question not only rang out in the crowd but struck Jack deep within. The weight of this moment could either shatter him or propel him forward. What if, just what if, this wasn't just a chance at saving face, but an opportunity to change everything he thought he knew? Jack felt Maya's hand squeeze his shoulder, a silent encouragement as the crowd waited for his response. He took a deep breath and steadied himself, determined to reveal the truth, one that would change not only his life but theirs. Would he take the leap, revealing his plans? Would this be the moment that finally defines who he truly was? Jack's eyes flickered with uncertainty as he stared into the crowd. They were waiting, hoping for something more substantial than promises, something real. The last question hung in the air, thick with doubt. "Let me show you," he finally said, his voice steadying. "It's not just about donations. It's about a commitment." He looked around the room, meeting the gaze of the woman still clutching her child and the young man challenging him. In that moment, Jack felt something shift inside him. It was as if a door had cracked open, letting in a rush of fresh air from the world outside. "I've decided to redirect a significant portion of my wealth to projects that will empower you." His words felt heavy with sincerity. "I'm not just talking about quick fixes or temporary shelters. I mean rebuilding schools, creating jobs, and investing in local businesses. Real, sustainable growth." The crowd breathed in, their eyes widening with cautious hope. "From this day forward, I promise to be part of this community. I'll start with a neighborhood council where each of you can have a voice. We'll plan, we'll dream, and we'll do it together. I want to hear your ideas." Jack found himself gaining momentum, his heart racing with a burst of energy. "I'm here to listen." He heard murmurs of surprise ripple through the audience, and he pressed on. "Together, we can lay the foundations for a community that thrives. But I need your input, your experiences, and your strength." Slowly, hands began to rise throughout the crowd, and Jack saw them, people wanting to speak, to share their stories. Each raised hand felt like a flicker of light igniting in the room. It was about connection, building bridges rather than walls. "Start here," shouted an elderly man from the side, his voice trembling with emotion. "We need better schools for our children." "Yeah," piped up a girl with bright blue hair. "And we need regular job fairs. We can't keep going like this." Jack nodded vigorously, filled with an energy he hadn't felt in years. Each voice, each plea, was pushing him further along this path he never thought he'd take. He smiled, realizing he found a purpose that felt like joy. As the discussion unfolded, the crowd began to shape into a collective force. The energy shifted. Doubts were replaced with ideas. As he prepared to leave, Jack felt a sense of joy washing over him that he had never experienced before. He was a part of something bigger than himself. But amidst the smiles, the rising excitement, Jack felt a shiver of uncertainty at the back of his mind. Could he really pull this off? What if his past shadowed these plans, tainting what he wanted to build? Maya, sensing his hesitance, leaned in closer. "You're doing great, Jack. Just remember, it's not just about the money. It's about being real and being here." Her words were like a gentle hand guiding him forward. He took a breath, grateful for her support. As he started to walk away from the makeshift podium, a sudden shout caught his ear. "What if it all falls apart? What guarantees do we have?" The room fell silent, all eyes on Jack, waiting for his answer. This was the moment when everything could either unite or shatter. Jack paused, faced the crowd again, and swallowed hard, knowing the truth. Sometimes, the only guarantee is trying and believing. He felt the weight of that truth like a rock in his chest. With hope and fear battling within, Jack prepared for the next steps that could either heal the community or push them further apart. He had opened the door, but would they walk through it with him? Would they trust him to lead them into a new future? The answers felt closer than ever, but only time would tell. Jack stepped off the podium, the air buzzing with tentative excitement and lingering skepticism. That question still echoed in his mind: what if it all fell apart? Doubts curled around him, but he pushed them aside. This was a moment of promise, a fragile thread he was determined to weave into something beautiful. Maya lingered at his side, her expression a blend of encouragement and sincerity. "You're making a real impact, Jack," she said softly. "I've seen what happens when people feel heard. It changes everything." He nodded, leaning slightly closer to her. "But is it enough?" he asked, a frown creasing his brow. "Can I really make them believe in me? In what we're doing?" "You already have," Maya replied, her voice firm. "The people want hope. They want someone to fight for them. Remember, they're not just asking for change. They're asking for a chance. Just like you." Jack found a sliver of reassurance in her words, but it was fleeting. The room around him was still alive with chatter, and as he glanced back, he caught sight of a small group huddled together, animatedly discussing ideas. The energy was infectious, and slowly, his heart began to beat with a rhythm of purpose. As they left the community center, Jack could feel the weight of the night pressing on his shoulders, a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. "Where do we start?" he asked Maya as they walked down the dimly lit streets. "How do we transform hope into action?" Maya fell into step beside him, her blue hair catching the streetlight. "We start small," she suggested. "Let us hold our first neighborhood council meeting. Find a space and invite people to share their passions. Every great change begins with a single conversation." With renewed determination, Jack pulled out his phone, fingers flying over the screen as he jotted down notes. He felt the pulse of the community, their eagerness waiting to come alive. Days turned into nights, and the meeting took shape. They secured a local park for the gathering, a central place where voices could echo under the open sky. Flyers went up on community boards, and the buzz grew louder. Jack couldn't shake the blend of excitement and nerves clawing at his stomach. Would anyone show up? Would they trust him enough to share their dreams? As the sun dipped below the horizon on the eve of the meeting, Jack found himself pacing in front of his apartment. Memories of the man he used to be lingered, lonely, isolated, consumed by numbers and profits. Was that the best he could offer? He had much to atone for, yet here he was, ready to expose his flaws and vulnerabilities to these people who seemed so full of life. "Jack!" Maya called, her voice breaking through the fog of his thoughts. She approached with a gentle smile and an armful of colorful supplies: markers, paper, and snacks. "You ready?" He met her gaze, and for a moment, all the doubts seemed to fade. "Yeah," he said, feeling a surge of confidence. "Let us do this." The meeting blossomed into a kaleidoscope of ideas, laughter, and shared stories. Jack watched as familiar faces emerged from the crowd, those same people who had raised their hands, ready to speak. Before long, one voice rose above the others, what do we do with these ideas if we can't trust the people in charge? They were words directed at Jack. The lingering unease returned, knotting deeper in his chest. He felt the moment hanging before him, the collective gaze filled with expectation. Jack opened his mouth, ready to respond, knowing this moment would serve as a pivotal point. Trust is built through action, he began, the weight of those words solid. And I'm ready to earn yours, starting now. As he continued to speak, weaving new dreams and tangible actions together, he realized the true journey had barely begun. It was going to take all of them, together, to grasp the future they wanted, but even as sparks flew and laughter echoed, the thought lingered: what if trust remained just out of reach? The meeting thrummed with life, yet Jack couldn't silence the worry smoldering in the pits of their hearts. Would their collective action become a binding force, or could it simply shatter under pressure? The air was electric, filled with a kind of anticipation that made Jack's heart race. He looked around at the gathering, all these faces turned toward him with hope flickering in their eyes. Yet in the silence that followed his words, his self-doubt crept back in. Why did he think he could lead these people? What if he failed them? He fought to shake the feeling, focusing instead on the voices that had begun to unify. Okay, who wants to go first? He asked, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of nerves. A woman stepped forward, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. She was older, her face lined with the years of struggle, but her eyes sparkled with determination. I'm Sarah, she introduced herself, her voice warm yet commanding. I've lived in this neighborhood for over 20 years. I've watched our homes decline while the city seems to ignore us. But I have changes we can make. Her words struck a chord. Jack felt the room lean in, eager for her insights. As she spoke about a community garden initiative, her passion fueled an entire wave of excitement. Others jumped in, sharing their own goals, their struggles, their dreams. It was like a fire igniting, illuminating faces and thoughts he hadn't seen before, but amid the thrill, Jack caught a glimpse of another familiar face: the skeptics. There was Ryan, leaning back, arms crossed defensively. Jack's heart sank as he recognized the doubt in his eyes. It felt like an anchor in the storm of positivity swirling around him. Ryan interrupted, "This all sounds great, but how do we know this isn't just another empty promise? We've all been let down before." The air went still. Jack swallowed hard, his throat dry. "You're right," he replied, meeting Ryan's gaze. He could feel the scrutiny in the room, every set of eyes weighing him. "But I'm here to change that. I want to create a way for every voice to be heard, to transform those ideas into action together." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Sarah piped up again, "What if we set practical goals? Something we can measure and achieve?" Jack nodded, his heart thudding against his chest, a spark of hope pulsing in the air. "Yes. What if we created smaller groups? Each one focusing on actionable steps, so we don't have to do it all at once. We'll hold each other accountable." The enthusiasm shifted gears again. A flurry of ideas bounced around the room: workshops, fundraising events, even a weekend cleanup for that community garden Sarah had mentioned. As he facilitated the discussion, he couldn't help but smile. This was what he had longed for, a sense of community instead of isolation. But between the hope and laughter, doubt still lingered. Would this new bond hold when challenges arose? Then, as the night wore on, Jack caught Maya's eye from across the crowd. Her approving nod sent warmth flooding through him. He felt fortified, surrounded by people ready to take a leap of faith together. Perhaps he was starting to earn that trust. After the last suggestion was made, Jack stood again, his heart racing, this time from excitement rather than fear. "Let us meet again in a week to check in." This is just the beginning. But before he could finish, the lights flickered overhead, resulting in an uneasy pause. A collective gasp spread through the gathering. Someone from the back shouted, "What is happening? Are we safe?" Jack's pulse quickened. The worries crept back, a familiar chill of doubt sending an icy grip around his heart. He stepped forward, determined to reassure everyone. "Hey, everyone, let us stay calm. I'm right here with you, and we'll face whatever comes together. Just keep the lines of communication open." The uncertainty hung heavily in the room, leaving Jack feeling exposed and vulnerable. He could see the remnants of fear in Ryan's eyes mingling with hope. But he needed to lead them through this. What had they attracted with their excitement? A seed of doubt? Or would this draw them closer? As he scanned the crowd, the uncertainty loomed larger, but so did the potential for something transformative. Would they come together in this moment of fear, or would they fall apart? The lights flickered again, and the tension in the room thickened like fog. Jack felt the air shift around him, a tangible mix of fear and apprehension. He took a deep breath, trying to channel the calmness he didn't quite feel. "Okay, everyone, listen up," he urged, his voice barely louder than a whisper cutting through the thick air. "We'll figure this out together. We've already brought our ideas alive by just talking. Let us keep that momentum going." Murmurs of encouragement rippled through the crowd, but Ryan's frown deepened as he stood, shaking his head. "Jack, this isn't just about ideas anymore. We're facing something real and unknown. Your words can only go so far when it comes to safety. Transparency is key," he insisted, his voice rising. There was a flicker of disagreement in the crowd. Some nodded in agreement with Ryan, while others looked to Jack for guidance. Jack felt the weight of his position, a boulder of responsibility pressing heavy against his chest. "Ryan's right," Maya called out, her tone firm yet supportive. "But we also need to keep the hope alive. We can't throw our hands up in defeat just because we're afraid. What if this is our chance to unite?" Jack caught Maya's eye again, her fierce spirit igniting something in him. He stepped forward, desire and determination igniting in his chest. "How about we take it one step at a time? We can form a task force to address safety and keep the lines of communication running smoothly. We can meet regularly, and I promise I'll keep everyone informed." "You deserve that." Whispers of agreement echoed around the room, but Ryan remained unconvinced. "What if it's not enough?" he challenged. "What if there truly is a bigger threat lurking? Talking one protect us?" Jack felt the uncertainty clawing at him again. He couldn't promise safety, nothing was certain in an unpredictable world. But he could offer support and collective strength. "Let us make it our mission to protect our community. We'll share information and resources. We'll stand together, protect one another," he urged, his voice now rising with conviction. The enthusiasm that had once lit the room dimmed slightly under Ryan's doubt, but the embers of connection still glowed. Sarah stepped forward, her presence calming. "We might not have all the answers right now, but we do have each other. That counts for something, doesn't it?" Jack nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. He had been scared, questioning whether the group could really come together. But now, amid all this chaos, they were figuring it out together, just as he had dreamed. A small boy at the back raised his hand, his innocent voice cutting through the severity of the moment. "Will we still have fun at the cleanup? Can we still plant the flowers?" Laughter bubbled up in unexpected places, cutting through the heavy cloud of worry. Jack felt relief wash over him, reminded that hope had an undeniable way of persisting. "Absolutely. That garden is a symbol of what we can achieve together. Let us not forget our goals among the uncertainty," Jack replied, his heart lifting with each encouraging shout from the crowd. Ryan finally relented, a hesitant smile creeping across his face. "All right then, let us give this a shot, but I'm still keeping an eye on things." "Deal," Jack replied, a sense of warmth blooming in his chest. They were moving forward just like that. As the night unfolded, a plan began to take root. Amid the connections and laughter, Jack felt a growing bond among them, something that promised to withstand whatever storms lay ahead. Yet, just as Jack began to feel the tide of anxiety recede, a loud crash echoed from the street outside. Everyone turned in unison, the laughter fading into worried silence. Questions filled the air like a weighty cloud of apprehension. Was this the start of something even bigger? Could they really stand united against the unknown? The crash echoed again, sharper this time. It sounded like glass shattering, followed by the unmistakable clatter of metal. Jack's heart raced, he could feel every pair of eyes on him, waiting for direction. The air was electric with fear and uncertainty. "Stay here!" he shouted, instinctively moving towards the door, though his heart screamed to stay back. "I'll check it out." "Jack, don't!" Ryan called after him, his voice rising with urgency. But Jack had already made up his mind. He couldn't stand by when something was happening just beyond their sanctuary. Maya stepped beside him, a fierce determination in her eyes. "I'm going with you," she said, gripping his arm. "You'll need backup." Jack didn't argue. If they were going to face whatever awaited them outside, they were better together. As they stepped into the cool night air, a sharp breeze cut through the tension. Lights flickered from a few nearby homes, casting long shadows on the cracked pavement. Up ahead, they could see a group of people gathering, their murmurs mingling with rising panic. "Stay close," Jack whispered, and Maya nodded, her grip tightening on his arm. They edged forward, the crowd parting slightly to reveal the source of the commotion. A car had crashed into a lamppost. Shattered glass glimmered in the streetlight along with bits of metal from the vehicle scattered like confetti. A man was slumped over behind the wheel, seemingly unconscious. "Someone call 911. A woman shouted, her voice tremulous. Jack felt a surge of adrenaline. Without thinking, he rushed to the car. The driver needed help, and Jack's instincts kicked in. Maya followed closely behind, urging him to be careful. "Hey, can you hear me?" Jack called as he reached the window. He could see the man inside, pale and disoriented, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. The driver's eyes flickered open, panic surging through him as he attempted to turn the wheel. Jack quickly opened the door and crouched beside him. "You're going to be okay. Just breathe. Help is on the way." Maya knelt on the opposite side, her voice steady. "What is your name? Can you tell us?" "Michael," the man gasped, his voice barely audible. I didn't mean to." Jack squeezed Michael's arm reassuringly. "It's okay, Michael. Take deep breaths. We're right here." The sound of sirens began to fill the air, slowly approaching but still moments away. Jack kept his focus on Michael, feeling the pulse of fear in the crowded atmosphere around them. The collective anxieties of his community rushed back, but he pushed them aside, focused solely on the man in front of him. The crowd quieted, captivated by the scene unfolding. Jack heard snippets of whispers, people's worries melding together, but all he could hear was Michael's shallow breaths. The connection grew deeper. They weren't just strangers in this moment, they were united by urgency, by life and death. The sirens grew louder, and Jack felt a sense of relief wash over him. Help was coming. But just as hope began to surge within him, a loud bang rang from behind them. Heads turned, and gasps filled the air. Maya's eyes locked onto Jack's, worry mixing with an unspoken question. "What was that?" Jack's heart pounded once more. Whatever they thought they had faced was fading, replaced by a gnawing sense that new dangers loomed. "Let us find out," he said, ready for whatever lay ahead. They couldn't afford to back down now, they had come too far, and so had the rest of the town. But Jack wondered, could they truly confront not just their fears but the unknown threats waiting around every corner? Jack's eyes darted around, scanning the shadows for the source of the noise. The crowd, once quiet in their fear, was now murmuring again, their shapes illuminated by flickering streetlights. He gripped Michael's arm a little tighter, wanting to reassure him but also grounding himself in this moment. "What if it's more than just a crash?" Maya whispered, her voice barely above the din. "We'll handle it," Jack replied, pushing down his own rising anxiety. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. They couldn't afford to think about what they were up against, focus was everything. Another loud noise, a bizarre crackling sound, almost like static over a loudspeaker, sliced through the night air. People in the crowd jumped, a few gasping aloud. Jack glanced over at Maya, her eyes wide and searching. They were in an unexpected theater of chaos, and he felt both exhilarated and terrified. "Where's Ryan?" he asked, suddenly aware that their friend was missing from the scene. Ryan had been right behind them when they left the safety of the building, but now there was no sign of him. "I don't know," Maya replied, her expression shifting from concern for Michael to concern for their friend. "Stay here with him," Jack ordered, hardly waiting for a response before he stepped away. He was torn between the two emergencies spiraling out of control. Firstly, there was Michael, fighting consciousness in the car. Secondly, there was whatever was happening behind them that had made the crowd's fear palpable again. He quickly moved into the crowd, pushing through bodies that were closer together now, all of them craning their necks to see what was happening. Recognizing a familiar face, Jack reached out and grabbed Tom, a local firefighter who was just as anxious as anyone else. "Tom! Have you seen Ryan?" Jack demanded, his voice cutting through the chaotic murmuring. Tom shook his head, his brow furrowed with worry. "No, I thought he was right behind you. I heard that bang. It sounded like something collapsed." Jack's heart sank. He turned to glance back towards Maya, who was hunched protectively over Michael, then faced Tom once more. "We need to find him. Something's not right." Together, they edged through the crowd, heading toward the direction of the noise. A few police officers arrived, their lights flashing in a strobe effect against the surrounding darkness. The tension eased slightly. Jack felt a flicker of hope, but it quickly dimmed when he noticed people pointing down an alleyway nearby. "Over there!" someone shouted. "There's another crash." Without waiting for Tom, Jack sprinted toward the alley. His heart pounded in his chest, fueled by the fear of what lay ahead and the need to find Ryan. As he entered the narrow passage, the alley was dimly lit, and the scent of burning rubber lingered in the air. Jack's eyes widened as he came upon the scene. A motorcycle lay crumpled against the pavement. "Ryan!" he called out, voice echoing back eerily. An unsettling silence fell. No answer. Jack felt a sense of dread wash over him. He wasn't just searching for his friend now, he was racing against time. Out of the darkness, a figure started to emerge. "Jack?" It was Ryan, limping slightly, his face smeared with dirt but unharmed. Relief surged through Jack's veins, but it was short-lived when Ryan's next words sent a jolt through him. "I think I saw who caused all this." Jack's heart dropped. What had his friend uncovered? As if sensing the shift in atmosphere, the distant sirens faded, growing muted. Jack could feel the eyes of the crowd upon them, the weight of their fear pressing down on his shoulders. They were straddling a line between the known and the unknown, and something told him they were about to uncover more than just chaos. "What do you mean?" Jack asked, urgency lacing his voice. Ryan locked eyes with him, the shadow of events looming over them. "You're not going to believe this." He could already feel the hairs on the back of his neck standing up. The night was still far from over, and with every revelation, the weight of their reality seemed to grow heavier. What had they set in motion, and how would it alter everything around them? Jack's stomach knotted as he searched Ryan's face for answers. The weight of darkened streetlights hung heavy above them, but it was Ryan's eyes that truly captured Jack's attention, filled with a mix of adrenaline and something deeper, a haunting knowledge that didn't bode well. "Just tell me, Ryan. What did you see?" Jack pressed, but a flicker of hesitation crossed Ryan's face. "I'm not sure how to explain it," he stammered, pulling back slightly as he steadied himself. "There was a group they didn't seem right. Like they were causing all this chaos on purpose." Jack could feel his heart racing, not just from fear, but from a pulsating sense of responsibility for everyone around them. "What do you mean? Were they armed?" Ryan shook his head, glancing nervously into the alley's shadows. "No, nothing like that. They were just yelling and starting a fire." It felt wrong, like they wanted to incite panic. Jack's gut churned. This wasn't just a random accident, they had stumbled into something coordinated. "We need to get back to Maya and Michael," he said, urgency rising in his voice. But as they turned to leave the alley, a figure stepped into their path. Tall, hooded, and silent, the figure's presence was ominous. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The crowd around them had gone quiet, an unspoken agreement of fear. "Stay where you are," the figure said, voice low and gravelly, sending chills down Jack's spine. Jack instinctively moved closer to Ryan. "What do you want?" he asked, trying to sound braver than he felt. The figure chuckled softly, the sound cruel against the backdrop of the tense night. "To make sure you don't interfere with what's coming." Jack exchanged a glance with Ryan, uncertainty sweeping between them. What did that mean? And how were they supposed to stand by and do nothing when lives could be at stake? "Look, we're not here to cause trouble," Ryan blurted, raising his hands defensively. "We just want everyone to be safe. You should have thought about safety before sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, the figure said, stepping closer, the hood casting shadows over their face, making it impossible to discern any features. In that moment, Jack felt an electric charge of fear, racing through him like a wildfire. The intensity of the situation bore down on him, a claustrophobic rush that made it hard to breathe. For the first time, he realized they were not just bystanders, they were targets. With a sudden burst of clarity, Jack spoke up. "We know what you're planning. We're going to stop you." The figure paused, considering the challenge. After a heartbeat, a sardonic smile crept onto their lips, revealing a glint of confidence, a predator reveling in the thrill of the hunt. "You think you can stop what's already set in motion?" they taunted. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Behind them, Jack could hear the distant sounds of the crowd stirring again, fear mixing with confusion. He needed to think fast. "We can't do this alone," he whispered to Ryan. "We have to warn Maya and Michael. There's too much at stake." "Right," Ryan nodded, determination creeping into his voice despite the palpable dread. As they turned to backtrack, Jack couldn't shake the sense of foreboding pressing in on him. The darkness loomed thicker behind them, as if something greater than fear was awakening. "Run!" Jack yelled, taking off down the alley, adrenaline surging. He could hear footsteps behind them, that menacing figure following, threatening and relentless. This wasn't just about chaos anymore, this was a race against time. They had to reach Maya, to protect her and Michael. But what if they were too late? Jack's heart hammered in his chest as they sprinted towards the open street. He didn't dare look back. The shadows seemed to stretch behind them, and with every step, he felt the energy of something terrible teetering on the edge of eruption. All around him, fate wove an intricate tapestry of danger and determination. Jack wondered what it would take to put an end to it. What awaited them at the threshold of the street? And was it just chaos, or was something darker rising to the surface? He was about to find out. As they burst out of the alley into the light, an unsettling realization dawned upon Jack: not every truth is easy to swallow, and not every battle can be fought alone. Who could they trust anymore? The moonlight bathed the street in a silvery glow, illuminating the chaos that had unfolded while they were in the alley. Jack and Ryan emerged, their hearts racing, breaths fast and shallow, but every instinct urged them on. They had to find Maya and Michael. They darted through the crowd, now in disarray, some people gasping at the sight of the crumpled car and pooling blood while others looked towards them, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Over there!" Ryan shouted, spotting Maya's vibrant blue hair amidst the throng. Jack's heart surged with relief, propelling him forward. He could feel the chaos as a living thing, swirling around them, but he focused only on Maya. When they reached her, Jack's breath caught in his throat. Michael was slumped back against the seat, still breathing but clearly struggling, and Maya held his hand tightly. Her face flickered with worry, but when she saw them, her eyes held a glimmer of strength. "Are you two okay?" she asked, concern threading her voice. "We just barely," Jack started, but a sudden shout interrupted him. The crowd had split, creating a jagged line of fear, and at the center stood the hooded figure, now flanked by a few others, visibly agitated, and commanding attention. "What are you doing here?" the figure cried out, anger tinging their tone, as they began walking towards them. The menacing presence pulled the crowd tighter, a palpable tension electrifying the air. Jack felt the instinct to protect Maya surge through him. "We're not going to let you cause any more chaos. This stops now." His voice rang out, filled with determination. "See? This is what you do," the figure responded coldly, waving a hand dismissively as if to brush off Jack's conviction. Then they gestured pointedly, and another figure stepped forward from the shadows, wielding a flare. "You're a symbol of what we're rebelling against, the wealthy elite who pretend to care but only show up when it's convenient." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of anger and fear, and Jack felt a sinking weight in his chest. He took a step forward, trying to keep his voice level. "That's not who I am. I'm here to rebuild trust. To make things better. We can work together for change. Just listen to me." Ryan stepped beside him, fists clenched. "We're all tired of being overlooked. The money doesn't matter, what matters is real change. We want our community to grow, not be torn apart. But the figure only laughed, a low, sinister sound that echoed through the silence. Too late for that. Your friend has gone soft, they hissed, pointing towards Michael. What will you do? Play hero? Jack's fists balled at his sides as tension coiled around them like a spring. He had fallen into a trap, a clever manipulation of voices trying to seed doubt. No! He roared. You're wrong. We are stronger together, even when it feels impossible. A sudden stillness enveloped the crowd, as if they were weighing his words against the murmurs of dissent. Maya squeezed his hand tightly, anchoring him in the moment. This isn't about us anymore, it's about the people. She declared, her voice ringing with conviction. Let us show them they can trust us not just through words but by action. With that, she stepped ahead, directing the crowd's attention from the chaos behind them to the common ground they could build together. There are families here waiting for hope. We can fight for them instead of against each other. The crowd shifted, a wave of realization washing over them as they began to grasp the truth of Maya's words. Doubt still lingered in some faces, like shadows in the dark, but the light of unity began to shine through. Jack knew that was their moment. Join us! He shouted, voice echoing firm over the hushed crowd. If you want change, let us make it happen together. This community deserves better. We can't let fear divide us. It's time for action. He felt a rush of newfound energy as shouts of agreement began to rise. The figures in the shadows were slowly retreating, realizing they were losing control over the narrative. Moments transformed, the crowd morphing. From spectators of chaos to warriors of change. They surged forward, empowered, and united. Ryan leaned in closer, nodding with determination. Let us take back our streets. In one electrifying breath, the tide shifted. People began to organize, discussions sparked like fresh flame, ready to ignite hope where despair had once been. They linked arms and stood side by side, surrounding the emerging plans for a new future garden projects, wrapping arms around each other to protect their homes, spreading solidarity like wildfire through their streets. In that moment, Jack felt the scars of his past begin to heal. This was it, the full circle, the purpose he had yearned for. He was no longer just a billionaire seeking redemption, he was one of them now, fighting not just for them but carving out a place within their community. His heart swelled, tears of joy threatening to spill over, but even amidst the celebration, he realized that the shadows still loomed, that trust was only the first step. What lay ahead was the hard work, the transformations, the challenges. Would the bonds they had forged withstand the storms still brewing on the horizon? Maya caught his eye, and for a fleeting moment, he saw reflected in her gaze a shared understanding. They would face whatever came next together, hearts open and spirits united. As the crowd erupted in a harmony of voices, bold and defiant, Jack took a deep breath, ready to embrace the uncertainty, knowing they were stronger together. They had made it this far, and whatever would come next, he was ready to stand tall and transform. This was his chance. Together, they would rise. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories filled with transformation and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread the message of change. Comment below your reflections and feelings about this powerful ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message of unity and strength.